I have one of the best jobs in IBM. Many of you probably have heard of the Weather Company. Can I get a show of hands, those that are familiar with the Weather Company, just quickly, get a gauge of the room. Okay, awesome. So we intended to acquire back in October 2015 and then started and completed in 2016. And since then, I have been talking about the impact of weather and the impact it has on business, on us as consumers, humans, individuals, and on the world itself. And I must say that I never thought I'd get to work with a product quite so exciting, or something that so many people want to listen and talk to. But to set the scene about what you can do with weather, I'm going to roll a little video that does a little better job than I can do it.
Impacts every sector of the economy. In fact, there isn't a business on the planet that isn't affected by weather.
We wanted to have a better understanding of how weather affects what we do. We had a hurricane off the coast of the Carolinas weekend when we were racing in Charlotte. The thing that struck me is I remember the weather company coming to us and saying, "We think we can help you."
It's not just being able to anticipate big changes in the weather. The performance of our vehicles is predicated so much on what the weather is at a particular point. The density of the air at a particular point has a large effect on the horsepower that the engine's going to make. Will have a big effect on how much downforce the car is going to have during the race. You know, if we have an instance where rain's threatening, do we start the race? Do we not start the race?
As you'd imagine, we talk about weather a lot. You know, how it impacts competition, how it impacts the logistics of race operations.
Massive amounts of data condensed down into something that's actionable, that's understandable, and you can make decisions. Flagship Solutions Group is an IBM business partner. We're using APIs from the Weather Company, software tools to develop a dashboard for them to use in race operations. We're running all of this on the IBM cloud.
This is going to allow us now to have a high-quality platform. One source of the truth. When we look at the weather, logistics, our safety, our competition team, we're all looking at that same platform.
The major impact it's going to have is just having the entire ecosystem of the sport just be more informed.
It brings a whole level of science to what we're doing that will take a lot of the uncertainty out of those decisions.
At the Weather Company, we are so proud to offer weather-driven solutions to the more than 3,500 businesses around the world that rely on us to help them make better, more informed decisions.
We also make really cool videos. But as a racing fan, this is about the best customer I could ever possibly work with, and I'm now sort of onto a Formula One customer to see if I can keep that going. But I wanted to just pick up on a couple of things. In order for us to have the credibility to sit in front of any client, yourselves in the room, we need to have sort of a what differentiates us and what do we do differently. And Jay already talked today about data and the impact that data is having, and big data is something that either all of you have done in the process of doing or still contemplating what you're going to do about it. Now, for the Weather Company, big data problems don't get much bigger than mapping the atmosphere, which is exactly what we do. And we do that in a very, very different way to normal people. First of all, we do it by ingesting around 400 terabytes of data a day. We take that from cell phones, so if you've got an Apple or a Samsung, or you get your weather from Facebook, Twitter, Yahoo, Snapchat, Microsoft, it's all coming from us. And what we do is we take that information, we look at the surface of the Earth, all 40,075 kilometers of it, all 100 kilometers high of the atmosphere, and then we divide that into 2.2 billion locations. And we computationalize that, everything that's happening, and produce an individualized forecast every 15 minutes. And that equates to about 45 billion forecasts a day. Now, to give you some context, because they're all big numbers, Google handled between 19 and 21 billion API calls a day. So to give you context, we're about twice the size of Google from an internet traffic perspective. So with all of that, what does that actually mean? Well, first of all, to surprise you, we're not a weather business. Okay? We are a decision business. Because weather affects absolutely everything. And I will challenge anyone here. You can we can call it out now, or you can get me afterwards. But there isn't a single business on the planet that weather doesn't impact in one way, shape, or form. From an energy perspective, it's not now just a question of shall we make renewable energy? Shall we turn our wind farms on? But actually, how many watts are they going to generate? And if they do, What's the temperature going to be doing 2 or 3 days from now? And do I actually want to have surplus energy on the market that I'm going to lose money on because of the market conditions where I'm trying to sell it? We're helping farmers, not just with what they plant, but when they plant it. What were the optimum conditions 5 years ago that meant they got more yield out of that field than anything else? And how do we help them recreate that? And in some countries, this is about maximizing P&L and profit and bottom line. In some of the countries that we work with, this is about life and death for villages. We work with governments to make sure that food is sustainable. It's really important. I'm sure that many of you have seen this. We're actively trying, most of the time, to prevent this from happening. We work with over 150 of the world's leading airlines. We track turbulence globally. We advise them on route planning. We work to save fuel. Alitalia, specifically, save 40,000 kilos of fuel a month by picking the best route based on the weather. That's enough fuel to fly an aircraft from Rome to New York every month. So if you talk about ROI and bottom line impact, they're really interested in what we do. But what does it cost us? That's the question I kind of want to ask people now. All of this stuff has a profound impact on the economy. So seeing as we've just come back from a coffee break and you're full of energy, I want to ask you a question and a bit of audience participation. So by show of hands, what's the estimated dollar impact of weather on businesses yearly? Okay, so for those of you that can't see it, it's A, 500 million, B, 50 billion, C, 100 billion, or D, 500 billion. All right, can we have arms in the air for A? Anyone think it's $500 million? One dude at the back. B, $50 billion. Shrewd. 100 billion? Okay. 500 billion. Okay, majority wins. Yeah, it is. I like to talk about it in terms of $500 billion because it sounds better and tends to scare CFOs that much more. But this really is the case. Okay? There's an external study. We can share it afterwards. You can catch it on our Twitter feed. $500 billion a year is attributed to corporate underperformance, blamed solely on the weather. And I would challenge you to look at it. Any of you that work for a public company or support a public limited company, look at their name plus weather plus results plus earnings, and you will be guaranteed to find either a positive or negative statement about it. And that's really the engagement point. However, there is one group of characteristics and people that are more impacted by the weather than anything else, and that is us. Humans. We are infinitely predictable, thankfully, and weather has a huge impact on what we do. It defines what we wear, what we eat, where we go, what we buy, how much we spend. We have an article at this month's BA Business Life magazine. On average, a shopper will spend 30% more per transaction on a day when it's cloudy than when it's sunny. If you're a retailer, you'd like to know when that's going to happen, so you can make sure that your stores are filled or you've got more staff in place. And weather drives very predictable behavior. So we've had a fairly turbulent weather last month. We've had a couple of storms that have rolled through Europe and people have paid more attention to it than most. From a campaign perspective, we saw 67% increase in activity on our platforms week on week. So if you're using weather as a trigger or weather as an identifier for your business to understand demand or supply, if you're not paying attention to this with those kind of gains, you're either missing a trick or you're losing one. Now, I want to focus really on 3 key things for today. Weather plus accuracy. We are the world's most accurate forecast, and that isn't a marketing statement. Apologies to any marketeers in the room. But we are independently verified. It's quite a nice position to be in. There's an organization called Forecast Watch who have unanimously stated for the last 5 years that the weather company is the world's most accurate forecast. And when we combine that with accuracy and the scale of data that we have, we can help in 3 key ways. The first one is, how do we help you drive deeper engagement with your audience, whatever that audience factor may be? How can we help you drive greater efficiencies? And then from our perspective, something that's very, very important to the weather company I want to share with you is around protecting humanity, what we do from a global basis, because weather is global. And what can we do in that space? So the first one I'm going to talk about is audience engagement. We've talked about how weather impacts us as humans and what we do and the way we behave. So if you are using weather as a means to advertise, we can start to get more intelligent about what we do. So you can see here, I've got a couple of examples. First of all, if you're advertising for a movie, this one happens to be a Tom Hanks one, I think, you don't want to advertise that when it's nice and sunny outside, because really that's wasted marketing dollars. No one's going to go inside when it's like 25 degrees and everyone wants to sip rosé outside in the pub. What you want to do is target those people where weather is very specifically miserable, grey, cloudy, has been for a few days, and people are thinking, what can I do this weekend? So targeted marketing based on weather conditions. Similar to running. I don't know about any of you, I'm very much a fair weather runner, if at all, but it needs to at least be warm and dry. So if I want to see information related to running, then I want to have it in a mean or a manner that is relevant to me at the time. But the final one is Campbell's. Soup. Food specifically is probably the most emotional purchase that we make, consciously or subconsciously. And what I want to do is talk to you about an example that we were given, a problem statement we were given by Campbell's themselves, which was, we need you to help us solve a problem. We have 37 different types of soup. We don't know when to serve it, but we know our ad campaigns aren't as efficient as they could be. How can you help us with the data that you have by utilizing Watson technology and to create a individualized, customizable engagement that works on scale?
A conversation can be a powerful tool. It can stir a debate, clear the air, unite a way of thinking, and inspire new ideas. Over the years, the conversation has evolved. Now, the weather company is harnessing the power of Watson to take the conversation even further. The same Watson that won game shows is now helping doctors solve health problems and helping teachers transform the classroom. Watson is trained to understand and answer complex questions in natural language, bringing humanity and technology closer. And now, the weather company with Watson can help you chat with brands like these. With Watson Ads, you can have an intelligent two-way conversation with your favorite brands right in an ad. Watson Ads are trained to listen, think, and respond to your questions with personalized answers in real time. When you see the Watson Ads logo, you know your voice will be heard, and you'll receive the thoughtful response you deserve.
What can I make with turkey and chocolate?
What do I need for a snowstorm?
In which months are allergies most common?
But the conversation doesn't stop there. It's just getting started.
So, what do we do with that? I can see people smiling, thinking sort of, how does this actually work? So I'm going to go back to that problem statement that we first got, which was, I want to sell soup. That's my business. That's what I want to be able to do. But how do I do this in a more efficient manner through my marketing assets, through my delivery platform? Well, the first thing we did is we went back on that evolution of where marketing came from. So the first thing was, and we all remember this, when you used to get loads of pieces of paper through the door with various different things, and most of it went straight in the bin. We went from there to kind of internet browsing, and you sort of started to get a little bit more intelligent. People could follow you around the internet. And then we got into cookies, so you could really start to track where people were, and if you were lucky or unlucky, depending on whether you had a shared computer, you'd find out what your wife or husband was buying you for Christmas because they'd been searching it the day beforehand. But really, as consumers, we're now far more demanding. We have very, very high constraints on our time, and what we want is very, very relevant, personalized information back to us. So the first thing we did is we looked at buying behavior. Now, this may or may not surprise you, but actually, from a human psyche perspective and our buying behavior, we really only buy soup between 6 degrees and 4.5 degrees C. Well, see? Maybe it's different in Sweden. You're used to the cold a bit more, but this is a general statement. Any warmer than that, and it's not really something that we want to buy. Any colder than that, and actually, as humans, we want something more substantial. We want sort of roasting joints or meats or carbohydrates. So actually, we tend to have this very narrow band. So the first thing we do for Campbell's is we help them understand what the temperature is and what it's forecasted to be. So we're serving an advert at the optimum time when we as humans are interested in their product set. And that has an immediate impact in the way they interact with us and also their succession rates. But then we tackle the bigger problem. I have 37 different types of soup, and what are the chances that I put exactly the right soup that you want in front of you? I might serve a beef stew to vegetarian. That's not going to go down particularly well. So what we did is we changed the game. Instead of trying to push something on somebody, we asked the human to interact with us. And this is where we brought in Watson technology. We used the Watson natural language processing APIs. We used some of our Chef Watson APIs. And what we do is literally provide an interaction point. So you can either type into a Watson ad, turkey and leeks. You can speak to it. It understands what you're asking for. Now, for the shrewd people and the grammar experts in the room, you'll notice that I've actually spelt leeks incorrectly. This is the kind of leek you get from a water pipe, not what you grow in the ground, and certainly probably not something you want with turkey. However, Watson understands that. It understands the context of what we're asking, combining it with the Chef Watson corpus of information, and critically then with the Campbell's corpus of information to give their specific twist on something. What that delivers back is a very content-rich, highly unique advert or message, whichever way you want to look at it. But what we've done is we've engaged with our customer, we've delivered exactly what they want back, and in this case, we've product placed not just for Campbell's, but also a subsidiary, Swanson. So we're helping to cross-sell within our brands as well. But one thing you do know is that you're giving back the client exactly what they asked for. And although this isn't interactive, there are 7 or 8 of these, so if your first one isn't right, you can push it again and again. Now, the interesting point here for you from an engagement perspective is the average time spent on an advert is around 42 seconds. The average time spent per consumer on a Watson ad is 2 minutes, 11 seconds. So your exposure to the customer is that much greater. And we've seen this now with Toyota, who have done one for the Prius about how you buy a car. We see it with GlaxoSmithKline in terms of advising people on flu drugs. We track allergens. All to provide most relevant information at the point when you actually want it. The next thing I want to talk about is worker safety. Okay? So we use mobile in the consumer world to provide you information when you want it. From a worker perspective in our B2B world, we provide information when your employer wants you to have it. Now, I picked this because it's particularly relevant. Lightning, humans, electricity, not really a good mix altogether. And each year, over 100,000 people are killed as a result of workplace injury, 24,000 of those directly due to lightning strikes. And what we do here, and this goes back to the accuracy piece around what we have, is we're able to provide very, very specific information to your workers in the field. Now, this can be applied to anything. We do it in insurance to alert people when severe weather's coming. But in this example, the yellow box that you can see is what the national weather forecaster was saying was the size of this particular storm. As you can all see, it's significantly larger than that. Now, what we're doing here is, one, protecting humans out in the workplace. So actually, we're keeping them well out of the way of severe weather when it happens. But also, for the really shrewd-eyed people, you can actually see the timestamps of when these things are going to occur. Now, the use case for this was really simple. In North America, where this particular example was taken, the employees of a company don't go to work if lightning is forecast on a day. Cost them millions of dollars a year, hundreds of millions of dollars, in fact. What we now do for them is send them out to work. We monitor the space around them. And when any condition set by the company happens that it's too severe or too dangerous for them to work, we send them a meaningful alert to their device, be it either iPad or phone or any other device, and tell them, guys, time to come in, have a break, wait till the weather's passed, then go back to work when it's safe. It has a great aspect on corporate responsibility, has a great aspect on efficiency, and we're getting more and more intelligent with this all the time as customers feed back to what we want to do. The final thing I want to talk to you about is particularly important to us. So I've talked about how we help drive decisions through enhanced advertising, enhanced interaction with your end user audience. I've talked a little bit about what you can do from a safety perspective in terms of delivering meaningful information to someone at the point they actually need it. But what about when they don't know whether they need it or not? What about when disaster strikes, when something happens? The weather company is still above and all a weather company. And our affiliation to protecting human life around the world is one of the most important things we do. And I want to highlight one of the technologies that we built in conjunction with IBM that I think personifies exactly where the ethos of the company is, what we can do, and the sort of things that IBM plus the weather company can deliver as greater value for humanity. I said we do really cool videos. It's kind of one of those things. But it is fascinating what you can do, whether you think we started off at the beginning of this half-an-hour slot talking about weather and then where we end up at the end of it. The real sort of magic that we have is around not just understanding the weather, but bear in mind most businesses react to inputs that force them to make changes. The weather is forecastable. Okay, so we're giving you as businesses the ability to understand what the impact was to your business, and then with a certain degree of accuracy, 15 days out. What would you do if we gave you 15 days to make a decision on something that either allows you to make more money or save money or avert a crisis or do something slightly differently? It's one of the reasons we're probably the most engaged with brand in IBM at the moment. We are back to back in terms of meetings, but it's all very, very relevant. Everyone understands the weather. You don't have to be a meteorologist to understand the value of this to your business. I wanted to leave you with 3 key things. The first thing is we are a business that is about creating value, whether that's inside your organization for your end users, or whether that's about making you more efficient so you become more profitable, or you find some form of competitive advantage versus the marketplace. We are definitely in the business of mitigating risk. From a worker safety perspective, as I said, we can apply that to insurance, we apply it to aviation, we apply it to rail, road, anything. A warning for some people gives people the advantage to make a decision that either helps save them or do something different for themselves. And finally, we are a company that is about enabling decisions. We talked earlier, Jay talked earlier about the very nature of the fact that IBM and its AI strategy is not to replace humans. This is about giving you richer sources of information to help you make more informed decisions, because you know the impact of this better than anyone else on your business. Thank you very much. I think I've got about a minute for questions if anyone has some, or I'm around afterwards.
Any questions for Alex? Over there.
Yes.
It was
Thank you.
And the solution itself. What I'm wondering about, what is it, what technology is behind? Are you using 5G or, for example, using also satellite and depending on what solution is available?
For the mesh video?
Yes, I'm
okay.
interested in the technology behind.
Okay, so the question was technology behind the mesh video.
Yes.
What we effectively do is we use a customized Bluetooth peer-to-peer networking protocol that sits within the app on the phone. What you require is one phone within the grid to be connected to an external source. So that can be a satellite phone or any other permanent medium connection. And as long as we have that, we can then use peer-to-peer technology to push messages. So another use case for that, which was brought to us by an oil company, was actually about how do they use that on things like oil rigs, where they have one persistent connection. How can you immediately send something out to every other device? So it's a Bluetooth technology primarily.
Okay, thanks.
Final question? All right.
Okay.
Alex, thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.